Here's break time, everyone. Eat a sandwich, take a walk, drink too much coffee, talk among yourselves. Thank you for an excellent session there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for hosting it.
Yeah, thank you. I want to see, is Mark Driscoll online?
Antarctica, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Antarctica right here.
All right.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I am tired. We just got off 24 hours at the firehouse, and I just got paid to come back in. So I'll keep this quick for you. But good morning. We're doing well. We just had a decent increase last night in some aurora activity, and looking forward to seeing what the winter will bring. How's everyone this morning?
We're doing great. You might want to explain to people a little bit more about where you are. I have your picture on the screen right now.
Sure. So the picture that I sent in is KC4USV. I am currently stationed in Antarctica with the fire department, and we are at McMurdo Station. So we are the winter overs that'll be here through at least October, and holding the fort down until all the science begins back up in the austral summer.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
So what's it like?
So unfortunately, I haven't gotten in there to play too much.
Yeah, you just got to Antarctica a couple weeks ago, right?
I did. We had to go through an extensive trip, a 15-hour trip on a C-17 from Seattle to New Zealand, and then once we landed in New Zealand, we had a nearly 3-week isolation in order to keep COVID off of Antarctica. They're putting everybody through massive managed isolation periods. So I arrived actually 2 weeks ago tomorrow.
Have you enjoyed it so far?
Yes, I'm still settling in. It feels like I've been here forever, but I'm still settling in.
How's the weather? How's the weather?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How's the weather right now?
Oh, the weather right now is actually really good. It appears to change by the hour down here. Anyone that's down here, I'm sure, can relate, or anyone that's been down here can relate. Let's see if I can actually pull this up. They're having IT and telecom issues this morning, so that might be somewhat weather related. Let's see, Fahrenheit right now we're at 5 degrees with the wind chill bringing it down to -7. And I think I saw that later today it's meant to get the wind chill down to -39, which is a warm day for us this week.
So you have antennas up at the station?
I have gone over there. I've played around for like 2 hours and tried to get things set up to my comfort level. I've only recently upgraded to an extra.
Congratulations.
So I'm kind of getting, thank you, kind of getting used to the new equipment that I've never seen, and making sure I don't use it incorrectly before I start keying up on a regular basis.
Do you still have any beams up?
There are, yes. I can't speak intelligently about much of it, but they do have a pretty decent antenna structure there.
First time I was at McMurdo, it was very frustrating because all the antennas were on the ground.
Oh, well, no, how long ago was that?
That would have been 2009.
Yeah, as I understand it, there's been a decent amount of work since then. It's very obvious that some people have come in and taken very good care of the ham shack. There's been private donations for equipment in there, very plainly labeled not NSF property to make sure it stays there. But it's actually been very well cared for recently, cleaned up, and I mean, as you can see in the photo right there, that's not a bad little situation that they've got going on for a place that's on a frozen block of ice.
I think I see my QSL card on the wall there.
You might. What year were you down here?
Well, I was there in 2014, I think, in 2017. But the QSL card I have on the wall there is when we did the thing where we sang Christmas carols from Antarctica on the non-ham radio frequencies, and we had people around the world listen to us. And we made up a little QSL card for people who could hear us. And so there's a card on the wall.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a card on the wall. I'm circling it on the screen now. There's a little picture of a penguin on it, and it says Merry Christmas from Antarctica. So I think that's my card.
Nice. Yeah, I've got to. I'm going to settle in and then figure out what I want to make for a QSL card.
I don't see a Morse code key.
There is one. It's not connected right now. It's trying to
Oh,
think.
He's got his finger on it. It's called the push to talk.
oh,
Actually, I believe the if you go up from the microphone, there's the one unit that's mounted to the wood, not just resting in it. I believe the paddle is right behind there.
So it looks like they still have. When I was there, they had the was it TS or it was they had a Kenwood. They had 2 Kenwoods down there. You can see in the figure.
So we've got a TS480, I believe.
That's right.
And let's see if I can recognize any of this other stuff. I was hoping to be able to get up there so I could reference it while I had it in front of me, and that just didn't happen. They've been delaying flights based on weather, and there's a whole lot of people looking to get off the ice right now. They were the summer contractors, or instead of receiving a lot of supplies by ship this year, they've done an air bridge. So the firefighters are getting hit really hard for the fact that they're constantly having to provide coverage for the flights. And all the supplies that have been coming in through the air. So this shows my lack of sleep. I'm already forgetting where I started with this. Long story short is I wanted to get up there to be able to reference all this stuff while I was actually looking at it. And they're just, the work obviously comes first, and it's demanding a little bit too much. Let me see real quick if I got an email from our telecom guy a while back that told me some of the equipment in detail.
It looks like a real difference from the Collins Gold Dust twins when I was down there in '59.
Wow.
yeah.
Nathaniel, perhaps you could put Liz on for a second because she had an Aurora question.
She did. I was actually just messaging her about that. So, Mark, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Elizabeth McDonald of the Aurorasaurus Project. She had some questions for you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Nice-
Well,
nice
good morning
to
for me. It's afternoon for you all, I believe.
I'm actually calling from Washington State, so it's just early afternoon here. But yeah, we would love to talk more about citizen science reports from Antarctica. And I have to confess, we haven't met before, so I wasn't sure what your job is there, whether you're working days or nights, or but we'd love to figure out how to get more reports from down there for our project, and maybe follow up offline.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say my address if somebody wants to type it in chat. I'm obviously, well, I assume obviously, I don't know what people are saying. We've got such limited internet down here. I'm phoning it in, and even the phone connection seems pretty bad from my end. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing too much static. But my email is mark.e.driscoll@gmail.com. And Christina and Nathaniel could put it into chat for you. Anybody's welcome to reach out. I'm happy to try and communicate with anyone that I can. Being a firefighter, I'm 24 on, 24 off. And then every other week I have 3 days off in a row that I have plenty of time to play around with.
Yeah, I'll make sure to get you connected. Thanks, Mark.
Sounds
Oh,
great.
thank you.
So I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
Mark,
Go ahead.
if I may pony on top of on top of Liz McDonald's comments, this is Tamitha Scove. WX6 Sierra Whiskey. I don't know if you know me, but I am a ham radio operator and space weather person. So one of the things I think is so unique about where you are is being inside of that auroral oval all the time. Anytime you have aurora, it'd be very interesting to see how well you can do on your ham radio contacts and what frequencies you can actually get outside of that oval, either transmitting or receiving, because oftentimes that aurora is such a barrier. So it'd be neat to know when you are able to make aurora, see aurora actively in view, if you're actually able to get on the bands and which bands you're able to use and which ones you're not, and vice versa. When it's quiet, is it a lot easier? When there's no aurora, is it a lot easier to do ham radio?
Yeah, I will. I'll certainly take note of it, and everything that I do in there is going to be triple logged, because they want it in the station log. I want it in my personal log, and then there's an additional log that I'm not really sure who monitors it, but there's 3 separate logs, and I plan on going back and looking at all of it after, at the end of my duty here. The only place I really know publicly to post this stuff, though, is in the Facebook group that I belong to, the ham radio group out there. So if there's a better place that somebody wants to point me to, by all means, I'm happy to take on more contact methods there.
I think with your limited connectivity, if you're able to post it on Facebook, we might be able to repost it to either Tamitha's channel or which is largely on Twitter and YouTube, or other data recording systems for Aurora citizen science that we have as well. That might be the best way. We have some contacts with people who are in very remote places like Svalbard, and that's what we've done. It's not as real time, but yeah, we can talk more about what works.
Okay. That sounds great. And then apparently this is a very new development. They've actually got internet access in the ham shack now. And yeah, of course it's still, the entire base of, well, right now it's about 250 people. We're shipping out another 60 today. And next week we're dropping down to around 130 people. And we're sharing a 19 meg internet connection. So it's kind of worse than the DSL days for internet connection. But it is nice having some type of limited functionality out there, because it gives me that ability to post things, at least within a couple of hours of real time.
Hey, Mark, is Starlink available to you? Or will it be soon?
No, it is not. The only satellite constellation hitting down here right now is Iridium, which it seems to be reliable. I picked up a little Iridium communicator device prior to coming down here, and it's done really well, assuming that I have a very clear connection of the sky, or a clear view of the sky. It's not like a cell phone where I can sit in my room and have my antenna or my device with me. Unless it's pointed outside the window, I'm not getting anything. So Starlink, last I checked, Starlink had been denied their application from the FCC to put up the majority of satellites that they wanted. They went back and reapplied for a much smaller number and got kind of the FDA equivalent of emergency use. They let them put up a few of the satellites in order to continue testing and development, but those are more focused right around the mid latitudes and north. South is getting kind of getting the short end of the stick on that one.
Yeah, thanks for that. It always is. Southern Hemisphere is always the short end of the stick. We got to beat on Elon Musk about it.
But where's this pole that you can actually get to? I can actually stand on the South Pole.
Right.
I think it's neat that we have both you on here, and we also have Jules Maddie, K2KGJ, who was down there, as you said, in the 50s. And I think Jules was very instrumental in the amateur radio communications with Antarctica back then.
Yeah, that's true. We did roughly 1956 to 1960. one. We did daily comm, 8 hours a day.
Oh wow, that is pretty cool.
Ran over 10,000 phone patches and messages during that time period.
Yeah, he's not on, but our engineer emeritus at Dartmouth, Mike Trimpe, was down in Antarctica and discovered what's now called the Trimpe effect while he was down there.
And what is that? What is the Trimpe effect?
That's where one station modulates another through modification of the ionosphere. He discovered an interaction between HF signals and VLF.
Okay. Gotcha.
We also have on, if Hyomin is still here, Hyomin has traveled down to Antarctica quite a bit, and of course so has David McGaw, who was just speaking.
Mark, this is Phil Erickson at Haystack Observatory up in Massachusetts. When you look up the Trimpe effect, whenever you get a chance, there was a very extensive program that Stanford University ran in the 1960s with several Sipel station, which doesn't exist anymore, and a bunch of other stations having to do with listening to lightning in the other hemisphere as a means of remotely diagnosing the electron density along a field line. And some of that Trimpe effect stuff was also part of the sort of research in that area that David referred to. It's quite an interesting story. I'd recommend you look it up.
Yeah, is it TRIPPE?
RIMPI, Trimpe, like shrimp
Gotcha.
with a T and add an I.
I did just mention it in the chat.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just on the phone. I don't have access.
Right.
I even tried to pull up Zoom to see if it would let me do an audio only, and they even blocked the website. But I just pulled it up on Google so I can go read up about it.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting effect.
We have a few other questions for you, Mark. One person asks, how does one get the opportunity to travel to McMurdo? Is it only open to certain people or groups? I've always wanted to go work a de-expedition from Antarctica.
That is a fantastic question, and it kind of depends where you're coming from. The United States has a very close relationship with New Zealand, but I'm going to tell you from the U.S. perspective, I just saw an ad on Facebook. It's a lot of word of mouth. I hail from Maryland and the D.C. region, and a lot of my friends are already familiar with it. So just the algorithms of social networking kind of put it in front of me. I'll tell you, PAE, Pacific Architects and Engineers, and Leidos are two of the major contractors down here. So if you go to their careers page and take a look at it, you can just do a search for Antarctica and it'll show all the jobs that are available there. Right now, it is very scaled back because they've got COVID restrictions in place. A normal summer would be somewhere between 800 and 1,100 people. This past summer apparently was kind of, actually this past summer, no, has been dialed down, and they had like 400 because of all the research restrictions. The summer before that, they had a bunch of military in town, and it bumped it up to 1,400 people. The winter right now is normally around 200, 250, and we're going to be at 130. So right now might not be the best time to play the numbers game to get in, but any of those websites, you can go to usap.gov as well, United States Antarctic Program, USAP, and there's plenty of information out there. And you've got some of the most advanced degrees down here doing menial work just to get their foot in the door. And by that, I mean there are doctorates, you know, working in the galley and being the janitors down here just to make the connections they are. And I'm not speaking down about any of those, but it just shows the dedication that people are willing to go to get into the careers down here. So if you're willing to work a wide range of capacities, you know, once you get your foot in the door, you can pretty easily move between the other departments. I will say that the physical qualifications part is the most strenuous I've ever been through. And it's not even like you have to go do a certain amount of sit-ups and push-ups and stuff like that. They just make you make sure to go through all of the different lab and medical tests required. I had to do a gallbladder scan to come down here to make sure my gallbladder was in good shape. Actually, it was funny because I was here less than a week, and after they went through all the dental work clearances that they needed to, less than a week, a filling fell out of my tooth because you come down here, you had that Arctic wind going in and out of your mouth, and a lot of people apparently come in and they like immediately push back a hot cup of coffee, and you know, that expansion and contraction messes it up, makes the fillings fall out. So don't take the dental clearance part as a joke. They already had to do a filling on me down here.
Yeah, it's quite a process going down there, and especially you're wintering over, and that's a little bit different than if you're just going to be down there for a couple weeks. I was down there for 3 weeks one trip and maybe 4 weeks another. And when you're wintering over, I know the qualifications are much more rigorous.
That is true. They, especially if you're at the South Pole, so McMurdo, you know, they require the psych eval to go along with it. South Pole, they actually make you get onto a video conference with people and do I don't know how they have the bandwidth down there for it, but you actually have to do an in-person interview with it, with the majority of the people that are down there to kind of look at the personality conflicts. And I mean, it's such tight quarters, they want to make sure that everyone's going to get along well down at the pole, because you could be down there for 6 months and really it's just you and I think it's around 25 of your closest friends down there. It's a very small group.
And have you experienced the full polar night yet?
I have not, no. I keep getting conflicting reports on this because the weather team is saying that we're not going to go to complete darkness until April, and all of the research that I'm reading and what non-weather people are saying is that on the 23rd or 24th of this month, we should set and turn into complete darkness. That said, when I look out of my window at 9:30 at night, the sun has set, but it is plenty bright. I don't. It's going to blow my mind if in just less than a week it does change over to complete darkness.
Yeah, and even right now when it's fully noon, how bright is it?
Oh, it's.
Can you try again? Hello?
We might have lost him. Oh.
Oh no. Mark, are you there? Well, I guess we'll have to go on for now. I'll touch base with him. Is he back?
Not that I hear, but that was fantastic. Wow.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll touch base with him later by email, and he gave his email out to everybody. So we found him. I think Christina found him on Facebook, and it's right. How did you find him, Christina?
There's a ham radio group that frankly is usually kind of terrible, but he had posted like, "Hey, I'm going down to Antarctica. How can I get my my extra class license before I do?" Because he'd had a tech for a while, and so I posted your video of KC4USV because you are the first thing that pops up when you Google KC4USV. You have a nice little tour of the shack down there from a few years back, and I think I tagged you in one of the things, and now we've been in touch via Facebook. And Mark was one of the success stories of the pandemic-driven shift to online exams. He upgraded from technician to extra while he was waiting around in New Zealand in quarantine. So we've been in touch to get propagation reports, and he's been very, very fun to work with, and I've been following his dental saga with considerable interest and concern because it's serious business. So, but he has some great updates, and he's got a Facebook group where he posts them. So,
yeah, he's been absolutely great. So that's really cool. I want to hear back. Well, one thing I want to say is there was quite a bit of delay and latency between his communications, because the way I understand it is that you're allowed to make phone calls from down there, but then they get routed via satellite into the USAP headquarters area in Colorado, and then they get routed through the public telephone system. So it's quite a hop to do that communication.
Nathaniel, on the Trippy effect, what was that spelling again? I tried to look it up and couldn't.
I think it was TRIMPI.
Okay, I'll look. I wonder if it's akin to the acoustics problem of having a single loudspeaker that's playing a low sound and a high one. There's Doppler shift on the high one imposed from the low frequency. Maybe
David McGaw or Phil can say something about that.
Yeah, can you be more specific, Phil?
It's a little bit different. Actually, Jim LaBelle is online. Is he not? Well, no, looks like he isn't here. No, he's here. He just doesn't have audio. I was going to say that essentially, the idea is that you've got these electron precipitation, okay, that occurs triggered by lightning. And the idea was, if you already have radio waves propagating kind of sort of coming down, that the electron precipitation actually modulates the wave. And the idea was that it was triggered by these particular lightning bursts. And later the Stanford group actually installed a couple of transmitters and were able to actually trigger this kind of at will. And Mike Trimpe is, I think, identify with the effect because he's the person that kind of put this together. So it's a little hard to connect that in terms of analogy.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
How it was discovered, I'll share that they were, I think, picking up WWV from Antarctica, and discovered, and there were VLF experiments being performed from airborne transmitters, and he found that the airborne transmitter was modulating the signal that he was trying to pick up.
Right. And you can, there's actually a New York Times article out there somewhere written not that long afterwards interviewing Mike about, the discovery of this. There is, we should say, it's a little controversial because there are people at Stanford who kind of simultaneously claim that they also observed this, but you know how this is for any discovery.
Well, he was with Stanford at the time.
Yeah, I mean, Don Carpenter has some different recollections apparently of all that, the late Don Carpenter. But the point is, I associate it with Mike Trimpe, frankly. And there are a number of papers, if you go search around, for example, in Google on numerically modeling this, because it is quite an interesting effect for those people studying VLF propagation.
Wasn't the conjugate point for the Antarctic Whistler experiments Roberval, Quebec? That
Could be, Jules. You might have a better memory than I do about that. That's possible. And people have also looked at if is there a latitudinal dependence on it. I mean, does it matter what the field line characteristics are for this particular modulation? It's essentially, I think the idea is that the electron precipitation coming in is supposed to basically modulate the waveguide that's formed from the ground to the bottom of the ionosphere. At least that's, I think, the theory of what's going on, is that the precipitation causes some ionization enhancements, and that kind of then provides a transient thing that modifies the signal and basically causes extra sidebands and stuff to appear.
Well, it's only the second thing I've recently not been able to find a Wikipedia page on. So
that one really doesn't have that.
Somebody that's amazing. Okay.
Somebody could write a nice one up, I suppose. And then, as David knows, Mike Trimpe ended up becoming associated with Dartmouth yet again, and has been working until recently quite closely with everybody up at Dartmouth. David, I think I've got that right.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I think we're starting to come to the end of our break here. That was quite enjoyable. So we're going to start moving from the Antarctic region, and we're going to start looking at the Arctic region again, because our next speaker is going to be Sverre Holm, LA3ZA, from the University of Oslo. So we still have about another minute before your talk actually starts, Sverre, but if you want to get queued up and ready. And I would also like to introduce our moderators for this session. It will be Bill, let's see. For this session, it will be Carl Letzelschwab, K9LA, and Francis Tolley, student at the University of Scranton.